Yo, so we have Taskmaster here with us today. We're going to discuss a little bit of a controversial topic about Bitcoin and some new ideas. And we wanted to pass these ideas past Task because we know he's good at combobulated ideas, maybe. So let's see what he's got to say here. Let's bring him in. Give us 1 second. Yo, Task, you're on the screen. How you doing, man? All right, not too bad. Enjoying the editing process and the recording process. It's always fun. So yeah, let's talk a bit about Bitcoin. I guess let's bring it in with Dan. Dan, if you can let us know your thoughts on what Bitcoin is becoming and why,
Yeah.
and then see what Task has to say, and we'll have a bit of a back and forth about it.
All right. So right now we're obviously in a very pivotal time. It is probably the worst time in human history when we're about to be enslaved on a scale that we have no idea. It is two routes that we are taking. Most people think Bitcoin is the savior when it's actually the ultimate tyranny tool. We are on a very, very slippery slope because the technology we are entering, this isn't a war on the internet, is a war on the mind. The internet is just a collective mind. That's all it is. It's our thoughts and creations put onto a screen. It's our mind. It is the hive mind of the world. So this isn't the internet we're talking about. This is enslaving the human mind forever. And it's not going to be undone. If we fuck this up, we're out of there. And Bitcoin is being held as the tyranny or the savior. And I'll break down why it is the ultimate tyranny tool. It was built to be a tyranny tool. Maybe at first, when they didn't cap the block size at 1 megabyte, it wouldn't have been a tyranny tool, but it still would have not worked. It would have been a bad iteration because it doesn't have an algo stablecoin. If you don't know what that means, just figure out the three pillars. We'll talk about that in a separate episode. Just assuming you know the three pillars, and just assume that you think or you know that you need an algo stablecoin for your protocol to succeed and have its own parallel world and economy. Bitcoin, as it is now, high fee base layer. It just so happens to come in a time of turmoil when there's war, the SWIFT system has been weaponized. No one trusts the banks. No one trusts mainstream media. No one trusts anything centralized really anymore, the politicians or any of these things. And it just so fucking happens, Bitcoin comes riding in on its golden pony saying, I have all the answers. How convenient of a fucking time that is, right when we enter the digital era. Our savior, how easy that was. It's a little easy, right? Now we have Bitcoin ETFs, so it's accepted by the system. How fucking easy was that to get our freedom? What did Joe Schmo do to earn that? He held his Bitcoin. Oh, high five. Bitcoin is a tyranny tool, and I'll tell you why. High fee, base layer, elites only. So just assume everything I am saying at a practical face value. We all know the world's run by cabals, by very powerful people. You call them shadow people, call them whatever you want. They're very, very rich. They have trillions of dollars, not billions of dollars. They're not recorded on banks. They own the banks. They tell the banks what they do. They tell the politicians what they do. There's multiple of them, though. There's not just one. It's not just one. Because if there was one, we'd all be wearing blue uniforms and we'd all be marching and singing the exact same song. So there's obviously decentralization amongst the elites. They haven't quite figured out how to conquer each other. Usually because bad people backstab each other and they all crumble in the end. That's why they don't ever succeed long term. But right now we have a bunch of very fucking bad people that are running things. And they don't have our intentions good at all. They want the worst possible thing for us. And people think Bitcoin is great. Well, Bitcoin is great for the elites. Let's game theory. I'm an elite. We're all elites. Let's just say, you're one shadow person, I'm a shadow person, he's a shadow person. We're all shadow people, and we control the fucking world. But we don't trust each other. We wouldn't trust each other with a fucking nickel. We always keep one eye on each other. We don't trust each other, right? But we have to transact. We have to do business with each other. Well, I'm a big fucking douchebag shadow guy, and I said, hey, we have this system called a dollar. I'm going to fucking cut you off, shadow guy. You're as powerful as I am. Because we can't really quite, I might be a little bit stronger here and there, but we're in the same fucking realm and it's always competitive. I'm just going to cut you off. Now, I believe this is all by design. I don't think all this shit happening is organic. I think this is all very coordinated. It's all fucking Hollywood. So one big shadow guy said, you can't use my fucking thing, the dollar, which is the world reserve currency. You can't use it anymore. So what does that mean in practice? What do the shadow people say? Well, you just fucking... We're all playing a good game of chess, and you just flip the fucking table for no reason. We can't play anymore. We can't transact anymore. You ruined it. Oh, yeah, that happened by accident. No, it's a fucking show. They wanted you to think that happened by accident and they actually hate each other. When really they're like, dude, this fucking shit's outdated. We need new tech. We need new tyranny tools. The shit we have, we can't control the plebs quite well enough. And there's only one real way to get rid of cash, and that's feeless fucking transfers. And you can only do feeless fucking transfers with this technology here. It's called the Lightning Network or whatever the fucking layer 2 you want to call it. But you have to have it on top of some fucking database. We got to make sure that the plebs can't use this database, though. The main layer where they own they actually own their keys and they can transact freely. We can't let that happen. So we have to make the fees unbearable. Thousands, $5,000, $10,000 to transact on the main chain. Only nation states or very, very rich, the elite, will use or have the privilege of owning Bitcoin on the main chain. So if I'm an elite, I'm saying that's fucking perfect. We all have energy. We all have infrastructure. We can build our infrastructure, things that the fucking plebs can't do. They'll have to use centralized mining pools that we obviously laughably control. But it's not just them. We have our own shit going on in the background as well. And we are in a good position of neutrality. Perfect. We have a layer where we can transact, but no one else can. If I'm an elite, isn't that what you would want? There's nothing else you would want. That's the perfect game. That's the only way it actually works in practice. So that's exactly what they want. So you would have to build a tool that does exactly that. And Bitcoin does exactly that. The fees go up. And now they say, guess what? Chase, I want you to pay every person that uses it. It's not just free. You give them incentives. It's beyond free. Just get their data. That's all you need to do. Build your critical infrastructure. Build red tape so Joe Schmo gets arrows every time he tries to use the Lightning Network. Oh, I charge 10 cents. Freedom. Fucking throw an arrow at that guy. No whack-a-mole system. He goes down. No Joe Schmo to replace him. Nobody wants to replace him. It's a thankless, horrible job. Most people aren't grateful anyway, so why is somebody going to take arrows for you? They're not. Chase Bank is going to gladly accept you, though. Zero fees, instant transfers to fucking Africa at midnight. You're not going to be able to fucking stop it. It's going to be awesome, amazing. Everyone's going to love it. Number goes up, by the way. How do you get people to use this fucking system? Let's think of the elites again. We're the elites, and we're game theorizing. Let's really try to be an elite and game theorize how we do this. How do you get people to use this fucking new system? You make the number go up. That's how. So people defend it, and they'll slowly watch it become centralized, but they'll defend it because their number goes up. And people think that's a good thing. They say, well, who cares if it becomes a tyranny tool? Number go up is good enough because people are starving and people need number go up, right? Well, the problem with that is two things. 99% of the people can't risk Bitcoin's volatility. Bitcoin's going to $1 million, but 99% of you won't have any Bitcoin when it does because it's going to go this way and that way, and they're going to chop you left and right. And you're just not going to be able to, you got bills to fucking pay. You're going to need a stable coin. Oh, we're going to offer you a centralized stable coin on Lightning Network, zero fees, all that good stuff. That's what you're going to use. 99% of you are going to use the Lightning Network stable coin that just you don't capture any of Bitcoin's upside. And the elite are laughing because they can just buy all the dips, and they just have a way to make you sell when you don't want to. Have you ever sold Bitcoin when you didn't want to? They're good at that, right? Who's buying it? These guys. It's going to go to $1 million, right? And people are going to keep trying to capture that pony. They're going to keep trying to get in the system. Oh, it's like a lottery ticket. It keeps going up. You suck everyone in, and the ones that do, the fucking douchebags that sell out, and they know what's going on, and they're like, I'm just going to do it because it's going to $1 million, and I'm going to be a billionaire. What's going to happen when you're a billionaire? You're going to be like, you're not part of the boys club, are you? You better spend that $1 billion quickly because we're going to fucking take it from you. We're going to make it so you can't use it. We're going to fucking put you in prison. You're going to do what we're going to say because you're inside the system now, and there's nowhere you can go. So you have billions of dollars, but you have it in a controlled system where they hate you, and they don't want other billionaires. You're either a part of their cabal or you're a pleb. There's no middle class anymore. There's no rich middle class anymore. You're an elite or you're a controlled puppet who gets to live a nice life and eat the red steak, or you're a fucking pleb. That's it. Bitcoin is built for exactly that. No one can convince me otherwise. No one's going to be able to use the base chain. You're going to use brought to you by Chase, Lightning Network, Lightning Network, Lightning Network. Everyone accepts Lightning Network. It's going to be feeless, fast, instant. No one's going to say no to it. Everyone's going to think Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. No pre-mine, no CEO. It's amazing. Decentralization while they tout their fucking... And they're going to let Jack Mullers and the other fucking Jack build this critical infrastructure all over the world. There's one thing they didn't think of, though. Because that all sounds terrible if there isn't the H word that we all know, that we all have hope. It's not hope, but it's damn near close. If they didn't have this, we would be fucked, because that's the world we're in. And the rest are tyranny tools. Don't even get me on Ethereum. We need another episode for that. Hive piggybacks off all the Lightning Network infrastructure. So we are lucky enough and fortunate enough to have that black swan. But Bitcoin wasn't built with Hive in mind. It wasn't built because it couldn't have even comprehended Hive. No one could have comprehended Hive. It was an accident, freak black swan to make the movie interesting. Without Hive, the movie would be fucking boring. Roll credits. We suck, we lost, our kids are enslaved, we did nothing to do anything about it except watch the number go up and everybody get happy. But if that doesn't convince you that Bitcoin isn't a tyranny tool, I would like to hear more questions, debate why people think that Johnny Joe Schmo is going to bring his own Lightning Network and run free transactions for you, even though Chase is doing that and fucking, dealing with the government and all this stuff. If that's the life you think, it's just not going to happen. I don't even think it's a 1% chance. I'm a poker player, and I don't say 1% lightly. It's a 0% chance. It's not ever going to happen. It's just never going to happen on a practical scale. We can't rely on that. Joe Schmo isn't going to happen. We have to understand that the base layer has been captured by high fees, i.e. elites, only rich can use. There is no decentralized layer 2 on Bitcoin. There is no way to do a decentralized layer 2 on Bitcoin unless you have a decentralized transaction layer that doesn't rely on Bitcoin security, because it can't rely on Bitcoin security because the fees are too goddamn high. So you need this freak accident that's Hive, but we're not accounting that. Without that, you have fucking Lightning Network. Bring your own node, infrastructure, monsters, convenient monsters, run the day. So that's why Bitcoin's a tyranny tool.
I'd also like to note as well that it's peculiar that only Ethereum and Bitcoin seems to be getting this mainstream attention, because they're the only ones that have, well, no, they're not the only ones that have been subverted, but it's once they get subverted, once the fees go up on the base layer on proof of work, or once the proof of stake is taken up by VC capital and controlled by VC capital, then they can let it into the mainstream, right? If it isn't that, if it doesn't meet those criteria, then it's never going to get into the mainstream.
When you got fucking BlackRock CEO talking about Bitcoin's good, wake the fuck up,
Wake
man.
the fuck up. Right.
It ain't good. It's good for the elite. It ain't good for most of us, that's for sure. You don't hear him? You'll never hear him. You'll never fucking hear BlackRock CEO say that about Hive. He'll demonize Hive today, guys. Right. Even though it's fucking built 1 million goddamn wells all over the world, he'll still say it's for fucking bad people and be, oh, Bitcoin's good.
And also, like, imagine if you got the CEO of BlackRock saying it's great, and all these other Bitcoin maxes there saying, oh, that's great that the CEO of BlackRock's saying that, right? It's like, you guys are now only in this for one thing. You're in this for number go up. You've forgotten what freedom means. You've forgotten what it means to have low fee base layer so the normal plebs like us can get involved in it and send it on the base layer. And you've forgotten, for some reason, that there's a censorship, choose your custodian layer 2 being built right in front of everyone's eyes called the Lightning Network that everyone's going to be forced to KYC on, right? And it's just like, you've completely lost your way, Bitcoin maxes, and now you're agreeing with Larry Fink. Yeah. You know? Like, what the fuck?
You're like dogs. You want to know why you're like dogs? Because you ever had a dog, you ring a bell, give it food, you do that enough, every time it hears that bell, it's like food, right? That's what you think with your number fucking go up.
Right.
And one day you're going to hear the bell and the fucking food's not going to be there because there was never fucking, the bell's not goddamn food. Number go up is not freedom. Doesn't mean it's your fucking money. It's going into a controlled system. You could become a quadrillionaire and say, I win. And they say, zero. You said fucking red hair, fucking whatever the fuck politic that I didn't like. You didn't wear the color blue today. You didn't stand on one foot and pledge allegiance to the new holy council. You fucking, 50% tax. You don't think that shit's possible?
Well, they'll only be able to do that on the layer 2. right?
That's where everyone will live.
That's where
Exactly.
everyone
If
will
you're
live.
on the base layer, you're touting. You're happy about this. You're good. Number go up. Don't mess with my number. But if you're a pleb, you're out of there.
Because you can't afford the fees.
You don't wear blue. You don't fucking say the allegiance. You better spend that money quickly. It won't be there.
So you need a neutral. You need a neutral layer 2 to solve this issue. A neutral zero fee layer 2 to solve this issue.
And it just so happens the only way to UBI is with no fees. So what they're going to do is they're going to be like UBI for all through the Lightning Network. You can get a stable coin, $300 a month, but it's going to diminish. If you don't pay, it doesn't. It goes away. And they're going to remove the concept of saving from our children. So our children don't even know what the concept of saving actually means. That's what they want. They want a class that doesn't even know what saving is, and then the rest. That's what they're trying to create, and that's what Bitcoin is. That is what Bitcoin will do in its current state.
Yeah, and it's as it's currently going.
Yeah.
It's just like interesting. Your thoughts, Task. You're in absorption mode there.
Bitcoin becomes legal tender in El Salvador by government decree, by the force of government. Bitcoin and the Bitcoin maxis applauded it.
Yeah.
And even Vitalik came out and said, "This is hypocrisy. You're talking about being adopted based upon a government forcing it." And so, what I am convinced we have guys like you who, yeah, you're builders, but publicly you're more freedom fighters. You're evangelists. You evangelize this stuff. You evangelize censorship resistance. You evangelize freedom. You talk about this stuff. You have builders, and then you have the majority of crypto is green candle people. Let's see it go up. Now with Bitcoin in particular, there's always two parts to this because the parts don't have anything to do with each other directly. Like with Ethereum, obviously, if you're scooping up the Ethereum coin, you're taking over the Ethereum network. If you're scooping up Bitcoin, you're not taking over the Bitcoin network necessarily because the amount of Bitcoin you hold has no relevance to the network in terms of running it. But the very same BlackRock has been investing in Bitcoin mining companies, at least the publicly traded ones, and probably the non publicly traded ones on the backside through private equity or whatever they want to do. And when I saw that, coupled with Wall Street's actions, I said, Bitcoin's being hijacked. And, I said that early as probably 2018, 2019, long before ETFs were approved, because it was evident when you have fixed money, historically, fixed money always pools. So you have the asset, the money on the which rides on top, pooling, and only a few individuals, if you will, are going to hold this. And now with these ETFs, guess who is ending up in the hands of? The coins are ending up in the hands of Wall Street because somebody's custodying all this shit for ARK, for BlackRock, for Van Eck, whatever it is. Somebody's custodying that. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it's JP Morgan, Goldman, whoever. But it really doesn't matter. Even if it's Coinbase, they're Wall Street too. So you have the coins ending up in the hands of Wall Street. You have the network being purchased by Wall Street. So what about this is freedom? It's being hijacked. So the original premise of Bitcoin, which was shit from the beginning, to be honest with you. I've looked at Bitcoin, and the reason why I was not a super maxi on Bitcoin based upon what they tried to sell is because it was flawed. The only thing Satoshi did, the breakthrough of Satoshi, was this: decentralized consensus. He solved that problem. That's the only problem he solved. He didn't change money. He didn't. We've had fixed money before. This is nothing new. The network, you're talking a 15-year-old network. The network sucks. It does 8 transactions per second. Dan's talking about the fees, which is accurate. I agree with his sentiment on the fees. But here's the other problem. If you're trying to compare it to Swift, if you're trying to compare it to Visa, if you're trying to compare it to anything, it does 8 transactions per second. How the hell can you have a global economic system based upon that? It's impossible. It doesn't work. And so everything has to get pushed to layer 2. Yep. And as I've heard you guys share over and over and over again, you simply cannot have a layer 2 that has any degree of freedom, that is not controlled, if there's no incentive. And all Bitcoin inflation goes to the base layer. There is zero incentive for any of these layer 2s, specifically Lightning Network, which is problematic because, like Dan just said, who's going to run this? Nobody's going to run this out of the kindness of their heart. And even if they do, if they become too much of a problem, that means they got the bullseye on their chest. And then somebody from, one of the alphabet companies from some government, probably the US government, knocks on that person's door and says, are you KYCing? Are you AMLing? Are you allowing terrorists? Elizabeth Warren shows up and wants to know it, make sure everybody is using it properly and is not tied to any terrorist organization, whatever the hell a terrorist organization is, I guess what they decide on that week. So, yeah, I agree 1,000%. Who's going to be your largest Lightning node operators? Chase, Goldman, the usual suspects. So, in that regard, I agree completely that what the Bitcoin maxis promote, first off, they still promote it as a medium exchange. And we've had enough discussions where there's a reason why it's not a medium exchange. Dan said about having an algo stablecoin. The reason why you need a stablecoin is price stability. Yep. You will never have a medium of exchange when you have price go up because the incentive, A, is to hold it, and B, it's inherently unstable. So when you talk about inflation and look at what's going on in Argentina. Look to what's going on in some of these countries like Turkey. Bitcoin can drop 10% in an hour. What the hell does a merchant do if the value of the currency drops 10% in an hour? You can't. It's inefficient. It's not effective. It's useless in that regard. So really, the only reason for Bitcoin that I can see is to hold it, is price go up, to use it as a reserve if you're a corporation, if you're a central bank, if you're an elite, to use that term, if you're Wall Street, if you're Larry Fink, you amass a whole lot of Bitcoin. What the hell else do you do with it? There's nothing else you can really do with it. Even as a loan mechanism, Matt, we've talked about collateralization. How the hell do you collateralize something short term if the price can drop 10%? You give me a loan on something and I collateralize it with Bitcoin, the price drops 10% in an hour. Guess what? I'm saying keep the damn Bitcoin. You just lost 10%. And you're sitting there saying shit.
You got to look at Bitcoin as a liquidity layer for the elites. It's not a unit of account. It's none of that. All of the unit accounts are going to live on layer 2. They're going to have all of the fiat money is going to be a layer 2 around Bitcoin's nucleus where they can cash in and out of the Bitcoin. And to them, it's not that big of a deal if you're cashing from one currency to another, having to have a little bit of Bitcoin in between isn't a problem. But Bitcoin is permissionless 24-hour liquidity. The problem is to access that liquidity on a base layer is going to cost thousands of dollars one day per transaction. So that means no one is going to have access to that except the big boys. Everyone else will have to use the Lightning Network stablecoin. And the problem with CBDC, and they saw it right away, if they would have said, hey, we're installing CBDC in this country, you would have riots, you'd have people burning the banks because they know what that means. If you say, hey, we're installing Lightning Network in your country, you have people praise it, you have people helping, you have people spreading the word. It's the exact same thing. The exact same fucking thing. Lightning Network stablecoin, CBDC, the exact same thing. The only difference is they packaged it differently so everyone would accept it. At the end of the day, the elites are people, a couple of puppets, and they rely on the elites or the plebs, the masses, to believe and accept what they do. That's why they have so much propaganda. It's brilliant. Everyone loves the Lightning Network. Oh, bring it to El Salvador. Bring it here. Oh, build the infrastructure. Do this, do that. Build it inside a fucking volcano.
It's always custodial.
If there was CBDC, they'd be burning that shit down. Lightning Network, they praise it. Tell me the difference between a Lightning Network stablecoin and a CBDC.
Well, if it depends on how it's structured and who's really controlling it. If you have a Lightning Network stablecoin and the banks own the Lightning Network,
Yep, exactly.
that's a little different than a CBDC, which then you have the politicians' hands directly in it, and you could make the case that
it can be used for. It could if the tools are there to be used as a CBDC. That's what I'm worried about. If it can be used, it will be used. It's not an accident they're laying the infrastructure for something that possibly could be used for their CBDC. No, it's exactly what it's going to be used for. They just won't call it that. That word has been that word has been blackballed. They say don't use that word because they'll fucking burn your shit down. Call it Lightning Network.
The thing is, what you're scared about the CBDC, right? It's the fact that they can turn your account on and off.
Exactly.
Well, they can do that already with custodial layer Bitcoin layer 2 on Lightning.
Exactly.
So it's the same freaking thing.
Exactly. It's the exact tech that CBDC would need is Lightning Network. It's the exact tech that Lightning Network that the CBDC would need is that. Controlled infrastructure. That's what it is. That's how they turn your account off. It's that simple. It's just they also need it to be feeless and convenient so people adopt this shit. So the convenient monsters, once again, coming up, gobbling up fucking, and Hive's going to parasite on the side of that. But we're talking in this conversation without Hive and how doom and gloom it really is. If you allow this Lightning Network infrastructure to reach critical mass in all countries, imagine everyone from their phone, it just takes over. You have a few banks running the most of those nodes and adding all the liquidity. It's a nightmare. They will shut your shit down. Think about it. They will shut your shit down with the push of a button. That's simple.
The other thing that I thought was interesting today, I heard for the first time ever, I heard of Michael Saylor referring to Bitcoin as digital property and not currency. He exclusively said it's not a currency, right? He said it's digital property. And all these Bitcoin maxis love him. He's basically subverted Bitcoin because it was a currency. It was supposed to be a currency. And now it's becoming known as, he's starting to subliminally put the message in that it's digital property. So it's like owning a building. And he said, you don't see people, like rich people, selling a brick of their building to buy a coffee, right? They just own the building. And he says that the value in property, especially in digital property, is far, far, far higher than the value in any currency in terms of the transactional layer. So like the store of value mode, i.e. in gold, is massive, right? Whereas the ability to transact between each other in a currency is much lower. So the actual value is in the store of value. It's not in the fact it's a currency. Yeah. But that's been physically removed at this point because of the base layer fees and the big blockers, the small blockers.
If you go to someone like Saylor, you say, do you agree with CBDCs? You say, hell no. I'm like, all right, let's just have this predicament. Let's just have this hypothetical situation. Bitcoin fees are $1,000 a fee. Right? And Lightning Network has reached global mass. Everyone accepts Lightning Network. And you have created a Lightning Network centralized stablecoin because it has to be centralized, right? Because there's no algo way to do it on Bitcoin. They don't have the technology. So it literally has to be centralized. What's the difference?
There is no difference.
Exactly. So that's why you have a charlatan. That's why you have a Hollywood actor. I'm not saying they've always been that way, but when you get important enough in a situation, it always seems like they pivot at the last goddamn moment. I don't know what they do. They put the fear of life in these people. I don't know. Something happens, but then they turn away from the original message of what it should be. It was never 99% of the world use custodial wallets. Bitcoin. That was never the message. And Bitcoin, I don't believe ever could have been a currency anyway. I think it could be a transaction layer at best. I think it was a great attempt at a distributed database. I do appreciate Bitcoin. It is absolutely necessary for our cause because we couldn't strap to the side of Chase Bank. So I appreciate this
Liquidity layer.
this liquidity layer into it's like the sandwich between the matrix. It's like that machine, that cog in the middle between the matrix, the fiat world, and we can attach to that. But yeah, it is. Don't get it twisted. Bitcoin is built for tyranny. Ethereum is it's laughably built for tyranny if you break that one down. But Bitcoin, it's a little bit trickier to see how it actually is built for tyranny. But when you break it down, if you write on the chalkboard, high fee custodial layer, CBDC, Lightning Network, zero fee, who can argue? Where's the arguments? I would love to hear an argument of how that doesn't happen. Not going to happen.
Well, I don't think there is an argument against that because, again, using the term that I use, hijack. Once it's hijacked,
Yep.
and again, what's being hijacked? Well, you have the coins being hijacked on one hand, and you have the networks being hijacked through the miners. I mean, when you had to spend $40,000 on a miner, that pushed the average person out of it. So there is nothing inherently decentralized about fixed money and a system that is run, a node system that is very expensive to get into. So it has to be run by big money players. It's not going to be decentralized. It's going to end up pooling both the coins and the network capacity. The node system is going to centralize to the point where you are in a controlled system, no different than Facebook.
Well, the base layer will always be censorship resistant on Bitcoin. I want to clarify that. Everything around Bitcoin will be centralized. So what 99% of people use will be centralized. But the base layer, I believe, and if I had to place a bet, I thinking you're going to have a west node, you're going to have an east node, and you're going to have a rogue node. And they're all going to jostle for power. And maybe one gets 51% for a little bit, but not for long, because both have critical mass for energy and infrastructure. Governments are the ones that have the energy. They control the energy companies. They control the infrastructure. So when this thing hits $1 million a coin and it's a real fucking deal, you're going to have a west node, an east node, and a rogue node. And if you try to run your own node, it's going to be laughable, probably illegal. And mining companies will all be subverted. They'll all get absorbed into one big conglomerate. And it's going to be a Mad Max world where you have rogue nodes and nation state nodes fighting each other. But that's fucking for the elites. That's for people who can afford thousands and thousands of dollars for their censorship resistance. The plebs, they can't afford that. You can't pay for your censorship resistance on Bitcoin. You're gonna have to suffer and bend the knee to whatever Lightning Network or jurisdiction you're in.
And what's stopping the governments from forcing people to have licenses in order to run mining equipment? In fact, I think it's already in a couple of countries. Don't quote me, but I think it is.
It's laughable to think that they won't. So like, what disillusioned world do you live in where the government's ever nice in any way to you ever and wants your freedom? What world do you live in? I don't understand.
And for me, the second they started calling Bitcoin a commodity, right? Like a few years ago, they started saying, "Oh, it's a commodity. It's a commodity." It's like that was the moment when they knew that they had subverted control over the code writers, and then after that, they managed to get it so that the main consensus was small blocks, and then once that was done, it was like, oh, now we can start putting it on the mainstream media.
Yeah, once a small block became.
It's just obvious. And then exactly the same thing happened with Ethereum. They were always very like, oh, not sure about Ethereum, and then once it went from proof of work to proof of stake. And they realized that enough people had enough stake that they controlled because they were registered in pro-regulation jurisdictions. And now the OFAC nodes run. All of a sudden, the OFAC compliant nodes run, I should say. All of a sudden, Ethereum ETF. Yep. It's the same freaking playbook.
The problem with them is it's all liquidity. So you'd be like, oh, we'll fork Bitcoin. You can't fork the liquidity, and its only use case is the liquidity. So it was
Well,
built
I
to
think
brute
I
force
think
that. So
the difference with Bitcoin is even if you fork Bitcoin, it's not Bitcoin. I mean,
yeah,
Bitcoin's been forked a number of times, and it's like, okay, you have Litecoin, you have Bcash.
and
They're
there's
they're
nothing
cheap.
to fork out either. So there's no like you can't fork out the attacker anyway. So there's
Well, it's
zero
a cheap
reason to.
replica. It's a cheap replica. It's like, okay, I fork out Bitcoin, and it's like, do you think anybody will use it? No, nobody cares because it's shit. It's shit technology to start with, and second off, well, wait, what you created isn't Bitcoin, so who
It's
cares? It's like,
dangerous. It's very dangerous tyrannical technology that can be used to enslave us
Well,
all.
and also the other thing I think is key to point out on proof of work, and Dan, you know more about this than me, is that it's already been demonstrated that the Bitcoin network attacked the other forks of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin network, it's hostile. Like it will, if you fork Bitcoin, the main chain will attack your chain and subvert it, and that has been done, as far as I know, in both Bitcoin Cash and
The
BSV.
hardest thing, yeah, the hardest thing about proof of work is getting critical infrastructure all over the world. Bitcoin has achieved that. Like
mhm.
our, Hive's distribution is like distributing coins. Imagine having to distribute fucking infrastructure, warehouses and
That's
shit.
proof of work.
That's proof of fucking work, man. That's hard. So like, if you fork Bitcoin and you use the same algorithm and you use the same infrastructure, they're just gonna be like, Bitcoin Cash is a threat. Let us just focus our beam 51% a few exchanges so we double spend and lose confidence and start to get delisted. That's what happened to Bitcoin Cash. That's what happened to Bitcoin SV. Bitcoin Cash added a centralized roadblock, I believe 12 or 16 block is when it ends. So they had a centralized decision saying you can't fork after this. That I can go into why that leads to all kinds of centralized issues, but it's not a fix. It's like a band-aid at best. Bitcoin SV went a even terrible route and went the boys club route. It said, well, if you're not an original Bitcoin SV miner and they don't agree, so you can come with 99% of the hash rate and little old 1% soy boy here can say, I was here first. You're bad. You can't mine here. So it's a fucking undemocratic DPoS almost. It's like an original boys club where if you're not invited in, you can't get in because they got attacked so much. Oh, well, let's just switch the algorithm and build different infrastructure. You think somebody's going to build your fucking infrastructure all over the world, all over again, without the BC and evil puppet support, because that's what Bitcoin has, that you won't have. And they'll say it's illegal anyway. They'll say, no, we have enough polluting the world. You can only have one world polluter. Can't allow you. If you had any kind of threat, you'd be stomped. To think about how to practically do that in my head, I wouldn't even try. If that was what I had to do, I'd take up arms. I wouldn't fucking up. Like, this is stupid. This is impossible. To fork and have proof of work infrastructure critically spread all over the world from scratch, no thank you. Much easier ways to do it. We obviously know the better way to do it, but so yeah, you're stuck with Bitcoin, small block, high fee, custodial layer for the masses. That's what you're stuck with. That's what Bitcoin is. There's no arguing that. And if you're pro that, that's what you're pro. But that can be used to enslave us all. Literally. That can enslave everybody. And there's no going back from it if you don't build a parallel world now. Now, our kids aren't going to do it because if we wait for our kids, they'll be like, what savings, daddy? And we're fucked, because they'll be like, who saves? What's that mean? That's the world you live in if you don't build a parallel economy now. And 99% of the world just don't realize this for some reason. I don't know. They don't care. They think, oh, if I get rich enough, maybe I can build my own thing, not realizing they're getting rich inside the monster's belly. And maybe the monster won't open his mouth to let you out. You're thinking that it will. Oh, I'll be able to send my Ethereum tokens out when I'm a
Bro,
quadrillionaire.
they don't even know they're in a
I'll be a
monster.
quadrillionaire, and I'll just send my Ethereum tokens and buy an island somewhere and build my own nation state. That's what we're all going to do, guys. It's like, no, your quadrillion is worth nothing in a controlled world. Nothing.
They don't even know they're inside a monster.
What happened to Jack Ma,
Jack Ma.
the Chinese guy? Wasn't he like a quadrillionaire, like the
Oh, right,
richest
yeah,
guy in
yeah.
the world?
The
Did he
guy
say
that,
some
the
wrong
guy that did
shit and just
Alibaba
fucking disappear?
just disappeared, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine a
He's
world,
back around
but
now.
that's everything. That's like controlled times 1,000, where they can really push a button. Right now, you still have cash, but this fucking feeless thing, why do you need cash? What do you need cash for? There's no fees. There's no Visa fees. What do you need cash?
Just give us your KYC.
Cash is illegal now, bro. You're not going to use cash. You're going to use feeless. That's the whole thing. The reason people still use cash is because of the fees. It's convenient. People are convenient. They don't like if it's not convenient, they won't use it. Some people like cash is more convenient. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, let's use a Lightning Network. You don't need cash. And now you have nothing. You don't have gold bricks. They'll probably make that illegal. Can't hide them up your ass. What else are you going to do?
You haven't been to
Custodial
San
wallet.
Francisco, have you? Anyway.
So, yeah, you'll have custodial layer Bitcoin. Yay. That's what you're fucking stuck with. I can't think of a happy exit that doesn't involve if we're stuck in just that Bitcoin world, there's no happy place, man. I mean, I guess let's fucking start voluntarily running Lightning Network, bros. Let's just all... You run one, Matt. I'll task. You run one. I'll run one. Let's just all run one for the cause.
I listen to enough to Brian of London. There's no way in hell I would have a chance of running one if I wanted to.
Yeah.
It's forget it. So
you don't think we can get McSam over there in Ghana to run the Lightning Network for all of Ghana? We're gonna have to rely on Jack Mahler's. Let's hope Jack Mahler's opens his own Lightning Network there and save the world from tyranny.
Yeah, I don't. I didn't buy into the Bitcoin Maxi selling point. I approached it from a little different perspective, but I think the three of us arrived at the same conclusion. Yeah. What they're shoveling is full of it and
it ain't good
and just shit. It's just unrealistic. It isn't what they pretend it's going to be. And it can be destroyed on many different levels. You can go at it from a monetary standpoint. You can go at it from an economic standpoint. You can go at it from a control standpoint. You can go at it from a tyranny standpoint. How people think this is a pathway to freedom when you have Wall Street starting to hijack both the network and the coins. I don't know how and Wall Street is a cartel. I mean, the world's run by a banking cartel. That's what runs everything is this international banking cartel. So to think that all this ending up in the hands of Wall Street and having your Chase Lightning node is going to change the world, it's not.
There's two things here. We've already seen a run of this. Bitcoin network fees literally jumped from nothing to hundreds of dollars in a week during that one bull market, the original 2017. I know people remember. And there was exchanges saying, hey, it's okay, we'll pay the fee for you, or they'll do something. They're helping people with the fees. So we've already seen what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is whoever's holding the main chain right now, they have their little Bitcoin, like number go up. And then the fees are just going to $500. And they're like, fuck, I'm stuck. Like I can't move my coins. And then Chase is going to be like, you know what? Connect to us and we will help you and move your Bitcoin just give us the keys and move your Bitcoin into our Lightning Network node. That's what's going to happen to fucking everybody, or they're already going to be captured on the Lightning Network. But the little small fishes that make just a little bit of money, they're like, made 10 grand and it's like $1,000. Like, fucking hell, man, I can't afford that. I'll just go to Lightning Network way, man. At least I get my $10,000 whole. That's how they're going to get you. So get your fucking liquidity. Think of Bitcoin as little bits of liquidity. Get it on other layers, spread it out. It's little bits of fucking liquidity. That's what you want. Bitcoin's like, you can call it digital gold, whatever the fuck it's. So your little liquidity, it's your way out. You need some pesos, you need some dollars. They'll take your fucking Bitcoin. But get it off the goddamn main layer and onto a censorship-resistant protocol that's not the Lightning Network. Don't trust... Get it off the main layer, but still have control. That's what that's come to. It's like you don't have control on the main layer, but you can't put it on censorship-resistant, over-collateralized bridges, where it's like at least you're dealing business with a person that if they try to fuck you over, you get made whole. That's the best option you got. That's duct taping this shit together that they built. But there's no other way if you want any kind of control of your liquidity.
But you watch the maxes, they'll say that's a shitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Max. They're already saying it. You want to wrap and put it onto a different chain that's got zero fees and it's actually got no ICO, no CO, no pre-mine. Now you're a shitcoiner, And it's like we've got to nail the maxes on that argument because there is no alternative. The alternative is tyranny. So we have to get really good at nailing them on that argument. In my opinion.
Let me ask you guys a question because I have my head stuck in the sand in a lot of ways, and I don't pay attention to a lot of the bull crap that's going on. But to me at this point, and maybe it's just my perception because I always thought they were full of shit anyway, and now it's to the point where it's just absolutely laughable. But Bitcoin Max me strike me as like the overpopulation crowd. You remember about 10, 15 years ago, the old YouTube was full of, oh, we have too many people and we're gonna overpopulate the planet and not enough resource and all that other shit. And
Like a
now
proper globalist there.
if anybody talks about overpopulation, they're just laughed at because you look at the fertility rates and it's like the exact opposite. So nobody takes those clowns seriously. Does anybody take the Bitcoin maxis seriously? I know they're a vocal group. I know they're an obnoxious group, but does anybody take them seriously anymore?
Well, the cool thing about Bitcoin maxes is, I think that as the Bitcoin price goes up and as the fees go up, especially as the fees go up, they're going to become a smaller and smaller group. And because this isn't going to serve the masses, this is going to serve the 0.001% of which the Bitcoin maxes will be part. And they will have been spending their whole way up this curve going, oh, we're going to freedom for the world, freedom for the world. And then they're eventually going to start saying, you got to work for me if you want to earn some Bitcoin, right? So then they can start setting the prices. And that's where this ends up with these people. And these people, I mean, they're not freedom-orientated people, ultimately. They might think they are. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, of course, after all.
No,
but we need to start calling these people out. We need to go to war with these people because they are not freedom-orientated people at all.
If I'm speaking very candidly, if I know you're a Bitcoin maximalist, I think of two things. I think that either you're pro-tyranny because you understand the technology and you promote it in a way that is... I'm talking about if you promote it as decentralization. Now, if you call it what it is, you're saying, I'm going to ride this tyranny tool and I'm going to get out before fucking they lock me in, right? Hey, I'm a fucking gambler. I hear you. Nothing you can do about it. It's going to be a tyranny tool. Number go up. If you can profit off of it and get your money out of the system, great for you. All the power to you. If you're going around touting that it's fucking decentralized, that it's for the masses, it's going to save the world, I have a fucking problem with you. And that is a true Bitcoin maxi. So I look at you either as pretty much an evil person. I don't say evil, that's strong, but a piece of pretty shitty person there, right? You're pro-tyranny. Pro-global enslavement on a scale we've never seen before. Or you're kind of dumb because you invested in something you didn't do the math. And I can say you're kind of dumb, and I can speak from my high horse. You know why? Because I'm kind of dumb. I'm not a dev. I don't know what the fucking code is. How the fuck did I figure this shit out? If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. You got no excuses. You can't say, I'm not a coder. I'm not a coder. This shit's basic. There's not There's nothing to deal with code. This is practical. Fucking just speak it out.
You know what this is? This is principles. Here's the difference, right? You can be smart and have no principles and be a pro Bitcoin maxi, or you can be a little bit dumb and have principles and outsmart the maxi because you're doing the moral thing.
It's amazing how smart you are if you're just doing the right fucking thing.
Right.
Because it's pretty obvious. Like, if you're not doing the right thing, you have to have all the smoke and mirrors and all this shit. When you're doing it, it's just like, dude, what do you mean? Like, fucking, you don't have an algo stablecoin. Your shit's centralized. It's like, you got high fees. You have custodial wallet. How am I a rocket scientist for pointing? It's obvious. Right. And you know it's obvious, but you don't fucking have the principles.
Yeah.
You're too weak.
I would throw up a little different viewpoint on that. I've been arguing with Bitcoin maxis for 30 years. And you laugh, and I know Bitcoin isn't that old, but a lot of the Bitcoin maxis came out of the gold bug world, and these people, when Dan said they're a little dumb, they believe they have their religion, and it's a religion, they've been programmed with such nonsense about money, about banks, about how things work. And when Bitcoin came along, it was like the digital gold idea just took off. And I would agree that Bitcoin, from a usability standpoint, does surpass gold, at least for now. With $2,000 transaction fees, maybe it doesn't work. But the problem is they try to apply these same nonsense ideas that have been disproven for half a century, but they believe it as gospel, and they bring it into Bitcoin. And so now, just like with the gold bugs, and you show them this isn't how stuff is. Oh, the Fed printing, and you show them exactly how money is created, and they say, well, I don't want to hear all that. And I think the Bitcoin maxis are the same thing. You can show them here's all the evidence, exactly what Dan was saying. Here's all the evidence. It's right here. And it's like, oh, I won't believe that. I don't want to hear it, because it just crushes their entire worldview. And, us as humans, we have a tough time admitting we're wrong anyway. I mean, I think it's part just the human condition and the human ego. But these people, they have so much invested in Bitcoin being everything. I mean, you ask a Bitcoin maxi, well, what does Bitcoin solve? Everything, every
Yeah.
problem. Bitcoin
Fixed
solves.
money.
Oh,
Fixed money, fix the world, right? That's what they
it
say.
fixed
But it's not even
government.
money.
Well, they're gonna love me and hate me because I said it's going to $1 million. So hell yeah. But you're a piece of shit because it's a tyranny tool. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never argued with I don't argue with anybody's forecast on markets anyway. I mean, some people said $170 barrel oil, and I say, okay, it could happen. I know the global economy can't handle it, but maybe it'll go up there. Who knows? I Somebody says $1 million Bitcoin could happen. In fact, I probably would agree that.
I think without a doubt we're gonna see that.
So, it's just, I mean, I understand what you guys are doing. Again, because I look at you, yeah, you're building, in some ways, and putting together infrastructure and actual what appears to be freedom fighting tools. But when you take your evangelism and you're going up against religionists, which is what it seems to be with the maxis, it seems like a lot of pissing into the wind, because you're not going to change their minds, in my view, because they're married to this religion, and a lot of them have been married long before Bitcoin. Because I can tell you, after 30 years, they're married to that sound money, which is fixed money. They're married to, fiat currency is the worst thing in the world. They're married to central banks. Or, the Federal Reserve Act was the worst thing the world ever had. I mean, I don't know, Matt. Do they not understand that the Bank of England's like 300 years older than the Fed? I mean, it's like the Fed wasn't the first central bank, people. So I
The
agree with
people, well, with religion, you can say there's a man in the clouds, and we could debate that all day. With Bitcoin, it's practical. It's laid out. It's a tyranny tool. We just explained why it's a tyranny tool. You can support it. Number go up. I want all people to make as much money as they possibly can and get it out of the system any way possible, morally, right? Because this thing's going to go up regardless. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm supporting. No, it's built to be what it is, right? And we're going to utilize it the way we can. But these Bitcoin maxis who try to say or hide behind their decentralization shield, they have to be called out. It's not, call it what it is. It's a tyranny tool, whatever you want to call it, elite. I don't know. Come up with whatever name. It's not decentralized for 99% of the people. It is censorship resistant on the base layer, which is their tricky marketing ploy. But they leave out the fucking fine print, which is important. 99.9% of people won't apply.
So I got a question. I got a question here for you. I want to take this to another level, because I think it is what it is. I don't think we're going to suddenly have everyone have an epiphany and realize that Bitcoin isn't decentralized and it is going to be used for tyranny.
Nope.
They'll go down with that ship, these people, right? And they'll tout it to being a freedom tool for as long as they can, even once
they're
they
going
realize,
underwater, you'll see their finger pointing.
Yeah, they will. But what I think is going to happen, and it'd be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on this. There's a weird juxtaposition going on here, because I don't want this. Bitcoin wasn't supposed to be this, right? But it's going to be what it's going to be. So it's like, okay, we've got to accept it. Then it's like, well, can we release a new Bitcoin on a actually decentralized as a layer 2, right? Can we release a new Bitcoin on an actually decentralized layer 1 and release the Bitcoin as a layer 2 token on top of that, right? Fixed cap supply, 0 fees, 21 million tokens, right? On a secure base layer that's got no CEO, no pre-mine, no VC capital backing it, all that stuff, right? Not registered in a pro-regulation jurisdiction. But then at the same time, I'm stuck in this weird juxtaposition, because I also want Bitcoin to succeed because of the liquidity.
Yeah, you need it.
It's going to give me the liquidity back into the system. Yeah.
We
right?
absolutely need it.
So us freedom fighters, but the problem is we've got to philosophize on this, because the freedom fighters that want true freedom for people, they need the liquidity to get back into the system. But the more you support that system, the more you make it as a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it succeeds itself. So the question is, what do we really want here? You know,
It's
because
like,
ultimately we do have this liquidity layer. It is an opportunity in, but then in reality, is that really what we want? Because we're supporting the system.
It's like those rockets, and at the end they drop off that little piece when they don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
That's what we are. So
Yes.
right now we absolutely need that, because nobody's going to accept us, right? So if you want to get into your fiat currency, and merchant adoption is the key. That's the Trojan horse. We have a great plan there for talking high distribution. Do it to the merchants, and take over town after town after town. But you definitely need that. If SEP's Lightning Network accepts HBD as well. That is beautiful. I'll take that all day. There's three pillars we've discovered. We're fortunate enough to discover what it is to have a censorship-resistant world in the mind. It's three pillars. Where you put your text data only. Where you put it, make sure it's distributed and incentivized. A transaction layer with no fees has to have no fees. It serves as both a medium of exchange for HBD, but also the ability to put data and take data off chain and interact with data as you need. Not take data off chain, but reference that data and use it off chain. So you need data availability, transaction layer, algo, stablecoin. It's a whole nother topic. We're still talking about Bitcoin tyranny, but those are the three pillars of creating a decentralized network. So if you don't have an algo stablecoin, which everyone fails at that pretty much, you lose, because you don't have a store of value and you end up using USDC. And if USDC is the backbone of your liquidity, you're screwed. It's that simple. If Bitcoin is the backbone of your liquidity on a centralized layer, you're screwed. All right. So you need to make sure that you have a medium exchange that can't be seized, it can't be controlled. Great thing about Hive is it is use case. It is use case. It doesn't need billion-dollar trades right now. It is use case. A $3 coffee, a way to earn. I need to speak and not be censored. I need to be able to send an algo a stable coin across for no fees and not have to worry about being KYC'd. It has actual real-world life-saving use case. Therefore, little bits of liquidity here. Like we're in a war. We're a little patch. We're patching this shit together. Let's get Bitcoin off the main chain before the fees skyrocket. Let's get our own little liquidity pockets so we don't have to deal with the centralized world. And eventually you'll see us fucking incentivizing infrastructure for internets and towns and critical infrastructure for everything, to where it's like, we don't need any of your shit, motherfuckers. We'll start small and it'll stampede. But you need the Lightning Network as the bridge. And then eventually people are like, elites, we don't need your shit anymore. It'll still be used in the elites own, like, you know, whether first world, I hate using that term, but you know what I mean. Like, their playground is going to be their playground, because they fucking own the military, they own all the critical infrastructure, they own the propaganda, and there's people who are just going to go to their grave believing CNN and all the shit that's their spoon fed. And then there's going to be the real world that's like, we don't need your fucking shit coin anymore. We don't need to cash out. We're paying our taxes in HBD because our government's pro fucking Hive. That's simple. That's the world we're getting to. But until then, Lightning Network, we piggyback off. Hive's a parasite, and I say that proudly. We parasite off the fucking whole system. You built this dollar system. Fuck you, we'll take it, and you can't do anything about it. You've built all of this computer technology and fucking things that we can use. Thank you. We'll just use it and distribute it all over the world. You knew you built the computer for fucking tyranny. We know why you built the fucking computer and what you built these cell phones for, and to monitor and track us. That's fine. You can listen to us as we fuck you over, because there's nothing you can do about it, because it is distributed. If you couldn't take down torrents, you're not taking down an incentive, three-pillar, a parallel economy that's building wells in Ghana, for crying out loud. You have zero chance. So,
to answer what Matt was saying, you know, could you create your own? Well, if you create your own, you don't have Bitcoin. So again, that's back to Bitcoin being the brand, if you will.
yeah.
But I think what you're saying, Matt, is I would agree 1,000%, and understanding where I think you're getting that concept from. I agree 1,000%, where if you have a layer two, the advantage to Bitcoin is that they have it fixed. So if you take a percentage of that fixed Bitcoin, and what Dan is saying exactly, where over time the number is going to go up. So, you know, whatever the number is, it's going to go up. So if there's a certain amount of Bitcoin that's put in a wallet on the base layer, as people add liquidity to this decentralized node system that you're talking about, and then you're riding the decentralized node system with low to no fees using a wrap version of Bitcoin that is sitting in that wallet on the main chain, but you're actually transacting back and forth and taking that liquidity from the main chain and putting it on your decentralized node system. Then you have the ability if there's other tokens on there, which would make sense, then you could go and bounce around and get into your Ethereum, get into your Litecoin, get into your USDC or whatever to get into your exchanges if you have to get to fiat or whatever the case may be. So I think that's really where you look at riding the coattails, as Dan was saying, being a parasite, riding the coattails of Bitcoin, saying, okay, if you jackasses want to fix this, fix the amount like you have, okay, we will use that because we know that A, it brings volatility, but B, it does incentivize hoarding because price go up. It's fixed. And if the elites are going after it and accumulating, you know what's going to happen over time. The scarcity on the open market is going to decline, which in USD terms to maintain that liquidity means that the value per coin has to go up. But one thing that I want to throw out there, coming at this from a little different perspective, but feeding Dan into tyranny, which you've been going, uh, which you've been highlighting. I always looked at Bitcoin maxis as yes, for tyranny, for control, and for famine, for poverty, for starvation. And let me tell you why. Because when you have, and this was part of the problem I had with their whole argument, when you have fixed money, you have deflationary money, which they say is a good thing. It
Hmm.
goes back to the inflation deflation argument. And people forget when you get massively deflationary conditions, that's called the depression. That affects the working class, that affects the masses. The Great Depression in the United States, and actually for the whole world, but especially for the United States, was not a great period in time. Deflation is not a good thing, massive amounts of deflation. And what they overlooked is the fact is if you had Bitcoin and everybody was engaging in commerce in Satoshis, and you have a fixed amount, you end up with starvation. You end up with mass poverty. You have no mortgages because you cannot have an expansive economy, especially with a growing population, especially with a migrating population. You cannot have that, and you cannot incentivize growth. You cannot incentivize technology. You cannot incentivize productivity because your money is fixed. So what you end up having is you end up having deflationary conditions because things have to crash. And unless you, of course, you have another form of money, which that's where the gold bugs go off the rails. When you say, well, they had the gold standard, yeah, but every time they need money, the government drop the gold standard. And what the banks do while they were on the gold standard? Well, they were issuing convertible notes. So this idea of outside money versus inside money always wins, and inside money is always what is utilized because that is what expands. And so when you start to look at a world where there's only Bitcoin as the currency, which I know Michael Saylor says, well, it's not a currency, but if Bitcoin was only the currency, you're looking at starvation. You're not only for tyranny, you're for slavery, you're for famine, you're for poverty, you're for all the gains that are made the last 30, 35 years in terms of lifting people out of poverty and all that stuff. You're against that
Yeah.
because that's exactly what's going to happen if Bitcoin runs the whole world and you have this, what do they call it, hyper Bitcoinization. That from an economic standpoint, you're talking about mass catastrophe. And that's what these people want to promote. And that's why I go back to saying I said the angle that I did is because they're so conditioned, these people are actually truly ignorant to what they support. So when you say you're fighting that, they're claiming that they're for freedom and the evidence is there, like Dan just said, they don't even know what they're for, Dan.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that
Bitcoin was early an attempt at a transaction layer. At best, that's what it was. It got one pillar right. It didn't have the other two pillars. It was quickly, obviously hijacked. I think it was made by somebody, and it was like, oh yeah, this could be, we could send money around for no fees, and then like, whoop, 1 megabyte block. Don't fucking question us. High fees goes against everything Satoshi ever said. But regardless, like Dan Larimer couldn't have predicted what the three pillars of Hive were really for. I don't believe the creator even knows what they actually made. I think you get this technology out there and you kind of discover it, what it could be done. And when you start brushing off Bitcoin, it's obvious what it is. It's the same thing for Hive. So I think Bitcoin at best could have been a transaction layer if you didn't have the cap removed, but you still have fat node problem. Still have a lot of other problems. Don't have the algo stablecoin. You're not storing pure text data, so you can have fat nodes. It's I mean, it's great. It's great for liquidity. Lightning Network is the literal devil. Keep that in mind. So like, there's all the Bitcoin, all the other layers. That's going to be a thing. Fees skyrocket. No one's gonna like. Everyone's going to accept Lightning Network Bitcoin or Layer 2 Bitcoin as long as it cashes out to Lightning Network. That's important. It doesn't matter what fucking scoundrel coin you have or where it's wrapped. It's like, can I cash this out to Lightning Network or not? And they say yes. I'm like, okay, I accept it. Right? Can you prove you have a Bitcoin with wallet with that has Bitcoin in it, and then we can transact. So as long as you can cash out to Lightning Network, you're good. The main thing here is to get all the Bitcoin off the main chain you possibly can onto censorship-resistant networks or onto your own Lightning Network node. When I say your own, I mean as a community. You're saying, hey, this is a community fund. That way we can cash in and out the Lightning Network if we want to. That's not necessarily needed as long as you can cash out to any Lightning Network node. You're fine. So I would say get as much as possible on a censorship-resistant layer as possible before the fees go up. Because once the fees go up, it's going to be hard to get that liquidity on these layers. So people don't think of it from that point. Get all the liquidity on these layers as you can, and then you'll have it on this censorship-resistant layer. Like, fuck you. It's kind of like piggybacking off the dollar. All this shit that Bitcoin did to become liquid and accepted everywhere, we just piggyback off of it and no fees. And then eventually people will, what would be a dream and could possibly happen, is saying, hey, we'll accept VSC Bitcoin or whatever you want to call it, Hive Bitcoin, instead of Lightning Network Bitcoin because it's a little bit better. I can earn it. I can send a fraction of a sat that has a social thing. It's connected to the Algo stablecoin easy. I got my own wallet. I hold it on my own Hive wallet. Why would I accept Lightning Network? Why don't I just accept fucking Hive Bitcoin instead of Lightning Network Bitcoin? That is a future. We could actually outbeat the fucking Lightning Network.
It's not that we
and
could
spread it.
It's not that we could.
That would be so awesome.
It's not that we could.
Yeah, we have to.
We have to.
Yeah. So,
we have to. This has to happen.
That's what Hive's great at, though. That's what Hive does. It just fucking takes what you have and just like, haha.
Like we have to replace Bitcoin. It has to be replaced. There's no two questions about it.
And this is something I've been pondering watching Elon Musk, and I think it's one of the most. I think it's one of the most fascinating things going on with his idea of the Everything app. And make no mistake about it. I mean, people who think Elon Musk is for freedom, no, he's Web 2 as they come. He's very happy with regulation. He's very happy in that world. But I think he is given a pathway, and why I want to introduce this is because of what Dan said, and it kind of all ties together. Um, Elon's going after this Everything app idea. And he basically went and bought a social media app, and he's filing for money transfer licenses, and he's gotten like 37 or 38 of them in the United States. They're issued state by state, so he's got to get, how he's got to get approval from each state that he wants to operate in. And I'm sure they're doing other things in other countries, but basically he wants to integrate PayPal into this. He also just announced that they're going to do something similar with YouTube TV. So now they're going to get into broadcasting, go in this Everything app direction. Now, when I look at networks and I look at network science, I look at what values networks, I look at network effects and all this other stuff, and a lot more than just users. And when I look at it at the data layer, the most useless data layer, the least valuable data out there is financial. Because it's like, Dan, do you give a shit what was on your Visa bill in 2009? You don't care. You did in 2009, but now you don't give a crap. I mean, do I really care what went in and out of my Bitcoin account in 2017? No, I don't really care. People like looking at Satoshi's wallet, but it's financial data. There's a reason why the banks only give you access to last year, because before that, most people don't give a crap. But when you look at, you mentioned text data, and then I know what's also being built with the Speak Network addressing other types of media. And you guys have talked about censorship resistance. And we focus this conversation on the financial aspect of Bitcoin. But here's where I get into a little bit of what I said before about the irrelevance of it, is because without the data, without the information, without these other forms of information, you could say, oh, well, the ordinals were great for Bitcoin. Okay, if you're a supporter of that. Okay, but again, you're dealing with a network that cannot expand and cannot do whole lot with ordinals. And so when you start to look at information, you start to look at data, when you start to look at this stuff as bits and bytes, regardless of what it is, because that's all a coin or a token is data. I think you're looking at the Bitcoin network as something that has two hands tied behind its back, and you cut off one leg because it's only dealing with financial data. And I'm talking value here. I'm not talking price. I agree with Dan that I think the price will go up through the roof because the elites will buy it and everybody's piling into these ETFs and wonderful. But from a value standpoint, I don't see the value there. I'm kind of in the Jamie Dimon camp where it's like, what does it do? Who cares? And if you don't have that data, if you don't have, and I don't even want to call it social aspect of things because it's a lot bigger than social, but if you don't have a network that has the ability to take in data and have that in a decentralized way, and I'm not necessarily talking censorship resistance because most data, most information doesn't have to be censorship resistant, but it has to be available because as we're figuring out with these chatbots, guess who feeds the chatbots? Amazon, Facebook, Family, Twitter, X, all the big boys, Google, they all have them because they all have the data. And to me, it's getting to the point where it's not only censorship resistance, and that's not really a selling point as you guys have been trying to sell because people aren't listening, they don't care. But when you start to look at the value of data, if it is indeed the new oil, where's the oil? Well, the oil's not going to be on Bitcoin because that's basically water when it comes to data. It's financial data. Who gives a crap? But when it comes to Hive, when it comes to really establishing databases, and so I think the financial, and I haven't really worked this out in my head, so maybe I'm just spitballing it. I haven't completely worked it out, but the idea of separating the financial from the social, from the data, from the information, from all this stuff, because when you start to look at digital platforms, you look at digital ecosystems, you look at flywheel effects, all of this feeds into the same pie. And it's like, I think it gets to the point where you can't separate it when you have something that's decentralized, when you have something that is not controlled. Right now, we have a system where the banking system controls the currencies of the world. You have the siloed systems that control the information, the social media, the offline stuff, the broadcasters, they control the information. They're basically arms for the government anyway, in my opinion. So you have these fragmented systems. Whereas when you start to look at it from this perspective and say, okay, if we have truly decentralized node systems, we have the ability to not only store financial data, but all different types of information and data and all different forms of media. And that isn't under the control of anybody. And then that media, that the information, because it's public, that has value in and of itself. So now the networks and the digital platforms that are tied to this that can repurpose this down and use it, the network effects become so huge where the flywheels just compound to make Amazon look like a bit player.
When it comes to actual use case, Hive is literally the only chain out there that has a use case for the masses. Bitcoin's use case, its only use case, that the only reason it has real value is because it's a liquidity layer for the elites. That is what it's used for. That's what they're going to use it for. And then they'll turn it into a tyranny tool. So they'll manufacture and make sure that it's successful in that way. When it comes to actual use case, sending a dollar that can't be seized, not even that, just zero fee from your phone to another person to a named account. That's massive. Being able to store, Bitcoin is built in its way because it wasn't built for freedom of speech. Hive was. That's why we can build front ends around this text database so we can see our words and we can communicate much easier. Hive was built for freedom. It wasn't built as a tyranny tool. It just so, it has to be a movie. This wasn't coincidence. There's no way that Hive was built in the way it was serendipity. Like this shit is like a freedom, just like Bitcoin is built for a tyranny tool. Hive was built as a freedom fucking tool. Like every part about it is for freedom. And it's built in such a way that it's the only way. Like you can try to think, oh, what if we don't have an algo stable coin? You're in deep shit. What if you don't have a transaction layer, the fees are high? Well, you're in shit. You don't have a place to store your text, well, you're in shit. You need all three. And those are, if you're talking about stripping it down to just the basics, that's dignified dignity, transaction layer, and HBD with no KYC, freedom of speech, being able to preserve data. And freedom of speech goes to apps and everything else. Nothing else was built that way. Everything else was built to help the middleman. Centralized high fee layer, middleman, corporated, layer 2. And that's why all the VC funds, these people aren't dumb. These people aren't stupid, right? People believe in climate change, yet you have insurance companies taking out 30-year mortgages on the beach. Why would they do that? They're smarter than you. Same thing. These VCs aren't dumb, right? They play dumb. These governments play dumb. Oh, what's this Bitcoin thing? Oh, yeah, prove an ETF. Give them a little bit of a hard time about it, though, so it seems like a Hollywood act. It's all a fucking joke. Of course, Bitcoin's going to be accepted by every government and institution in the world. Why wouldn't it be? It's perfect for them. Ethereum's the same thing. It's like that, but Ethereum's not a real tyranny tool. Bitcoin is because it's fucking like it's a real thing, and the elites like this is like whoa, no one can, like we're part of it. No one person controls it. Ethereum's more of like an arm or like a fucking a weapon like that they're holding. It's like a shield or something. It can be easily replaced. It's a pre-mined fucking layer 1 smart contract. It's not distributed infrastructure hash rate voting like proof of work. That shit's crazy. It's amazing, mind-blowing when it comes to coming up with another consensus that isn't coin voting. Hats off for thinking of proof of work if you're talking about that. But to create a layer 1 smart contract pre-mined shitcoin, it's not that difficult. Yeah, it's hard to get people to accept it. That takes time. It's not hard. It just takes time, which the elite hate. They're running out of time, obviously. So I think they're going to run with Ethereum. It's been here long enough. Enough people believe it's decentralized. You're going to see Solana and all this shit, but Matic and all these layer 2s, they're going to get big time funding. $300 million bill, by the way. Who do you think pays that? They're going to offer 0 fees. And it's going to be fucking badass, and everyone's going to trade their NFTs on it, and they're going to gain massive network effect, and Ethereum's going to go to the fucking moon. Has to go to the moon by design. If it doesn't, then it won't work. The plan fails, because that's how you get people to join this shit centralizing technology. They sell their souls for money. They do it every time. So that's what's going to happen. Bitcoin, Ethereum, go to the fucking moon. Centralized layer 2s. People don't know the difference because they don't do their homework. And then Hive just comes and kicks it in the fucking side of the face. And like, what the fuck is this? The elites could not have accounted for it. We piggyback off of all of their shoulders, leapfrog to freedom. And we live kind of happily ever after in a dystopian Mad Max world. But at least we will have a fighter's chance. That's all I ask for, man. Just give me a fighter's chance. If you don't have a fighter's chance, then it's not interesting. It's boring as fuck. But if I know I got at least a chance, which, Hive is more than the chance. I think Hive is... if you really look at it, it's unstoppable fucking beast in the opposite direction they want it to go. It's like you can't stop the spread. The HBD use case with no fees is just such a killer use case. It's so amazing, and it's so anti-tyrannical that they're like, fuck, we can't stop it. It's going to spread, 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 spread. Fuck, they built another well. Fuck, they built another park. Shit's in another country. Another government knows about it. And before they know it, censor them. Oh, shit, you can't, because they have their own database that isn't hosted by Google. Shut down their accounts. Fuck, we can't. Distributed technology. Yeah. It's like, that's not an accident, man. I don't know what's going on here. Some crazy shit going on. But when you look at Bitcoin, it's amazing. If I'm an elitist and I'm building to control people, fucking a Bitcoin genius. Such a genius move. Hats off,
Well,
man.
that's
some
where the
sadistic
conspiracy comes from, that
shit.
it was the CIA or the NSA or the government built
Whatever
it. Who knows?
boogeyman, whatever. They're fucking sick, sadistic geniuses. I give them hats off. I'm a game theorist, and when it comes to that, that's some crazy shit right there. But then when I look at Hive, it's even more sadistic, but in a positive way. It's like, whoa, you thought your shit was fucking crazy. Look at our shit. It's like our shit's gonna beat your shit. You rely on propaganda, fucking force, and preying on the weak and enslaving people. And ours empowers value for value, spreads like wildfire. Everybody has an opportunity, can't censor us. It's fucking the literal light versus dark. I've never seen such a comparison in my life. You have open
Well,
freedom versus
and
dark tyranny.
what's interesting, and it's just the way you framed that, Dan. It made me do the comparison, which I'd never really done before. But if we're looking at it, you're talking about Bitcoin that potentially is being hijacked at the minor level with these big mining pools and BlackRock and other entities buying into
You're
that. So,
polite. You say potentially. I say it's absolutely by design. But
okay,
we'll give them
so
potentially.
so now you have the base layer being taken care of, and then you have Lightning Network and other layer 2s that'll end up being centralized and controlled.
Yep.
And then you have Hive in parallel, which is decentralized at the base layer. And then you have what Matt's talking about, which is then building layer twos in the same decentralized manner. So it's like this thing just becomes like fungus spreading further and further out across the pond, or bacteria, or whatever the hell is on spreading across the pond, because you just have people building these different decentralized layer twos and infrastructure where people, I mean, hell, we're running VSC. I think we're running a couple of them on raspberries.
Just real quick, VSC, just keep in mind, for no reason at all, no pre-mine, no CEO, decentralized layer 2 on Hive,
No token.
smart contract. No reason at all. Could have been centralized, but just so happened not centralized. Absolutely crucial for the future of Hive. Hats off.
I also want to note there, like imagine how easy it's going to be for us to be able to drop Bitcoin, the new Bitcoin, to these people. Like to do a scan of all existing Bitcoin accounts from X date to Y date and just say they'll get the drop. And then maybe have one where it's still got a cap supply and one where it's got a distribution model where the community distributes it to other people via inflation. There's so many things that we can do with this here to completely create improved versions of what's out there and actually give people the real digital freedom that they need.
The day I woke up was when they were like, this is the first time I ever received Bitcoin.
Yeah.
When we sent them on BSC.
When
So many
it.
people are like, I've never actually been able to afford to own Bitcoin. It's like, and Lightning Network isn't available. It's like Netflix or some shit. It's like, oh, it's not available. Lightning Network isn't currently available where I'm at. So I've never actually been able to hold Bitcoin. Thank you very much, sir.
Because of the high fees.
That's a fucking mind blower. You're like, holy shit. Like, and it's only getting worse. The fees ain't going down. That means nobody owns Bitcoin unless it's on a custodial centralized layer. And the fees are so small compared to what they're gonna be. Like, you think a $30 fee is high? That's peanuts.
Enjoy
man.
it while you got it.
That
right?
is fucking peanuts. You're talking about thousands of dollars one day. Easy. And they'll love it. The elites will fucking gobble it up. You saw the core devs cheering the fees going high. They know exactly what they're fucking doing, man. They don't want you to own your coins. They don't want you to own anything. They're weird. They don't want you to own shit. Like, no, they can't own their digital fucking coins. You make them use a custodial wallet. Force them to. Or I'll beat you. I don't know who's behind this crazy fucking shit, but they're always fucking evil bastards for some reason. It's like, why do you have to fucking be so fucking bad? Chill out. But yeah, Hive, the great thing about Hive is you don't hear about it anywhere. And you go to Venezuela and you might go to Sucre and you're like, oh, fuck, it's everywhere. It's like, it's literally the revolution will not be televised. It is that. It is happening. It is changing the world and nobody's fucking flickering a camera. It's like all these protests around the world that they're too scared to show. It's like changing the world. And it's like, maybe if we ignore it long enough, but I can feel it. They're already like, fuck, we got to do something. They're fucking, this ain't working. Like, you thought it was going to work.
Ignoring it isn't working.
It's like, it ain't working.
They keep distributing the token.
So they keep fucking, it's like they're getting stronger. It's like, I just imagine some guys like, they're getting stronger, sir. fucking hell, that didn't work. I'm sorry. Now we're going to be demonized. Taskmaster, you're going to be a bad guy one day. They're going to put your face, and some people in some country are going to hate you for no reason. And then people in other countries are going to love you for a good reason. But, yeah, we might be labeled as bad guys by the propaganda monsters.
That's nothing new. I'm used to being despised. When you got a personality like mine, you piss everybody off, and you don't care.
But this is the age of information, so as they sling their terrible propaganda, we will thread and penetrate their shitty VPN walls and show the truth with Hive. And they're like, these motherfuckers are lying. They built how many wells in Ghana? It's like, our government's tyrannical. Can you believe it? Who would have thought?
They can throw all the information they want. I'll write 2 more articles a day. Fuck them.
One thing, before we end this conversation, just because you're talking about a database being valuable, Matt and I have been noticing, we're going through, you go through the old YouTube every once in a while, see what's going on. You can Google some OGs like Jordan Maxwell, and we're like, there's only 2 videos of Jordan Maxwell that exist right now. It's like, these motherfuckers are erasing history. They're erasing our history. And the weird, what is it called? That fucking Donnie Kruger's effect. They're like changing teddy bears' colors and fucking
the Mandela effect,
trying to make us fucking crazy. It's like, dude, we need to take people who have physical copies. record history, put it on Hive, and then one day you'll be like, this is the real world and real history, how it happened. And this is like the fake, weird fucking shit that you can see is obviously being spoofed.
What we need, Task, is...
Task up the world.
I don't know if you've seen Wavio's dropped Google plugin. So Wavio have built a Google plugin where if you're on Google Maps or on Amazon, you can click to add to chain. Click to add item to chain, right? So it adds the business to the chain, or it adds the Amazon web product. Any e-commerce product, you can add it to chain, right? One click of a button. Well, we need the same thing for the Speak network, where we have an extension like Hive Keychain. Maybe we can even get it built into Keychain at some point. But it's an extension where you're going through YouTube or any other previous internet history, and you can click to add to Speak Network, to backup on Speak Network. So you can, if you want to have 3, 4, 5 backups, then you select the amount you want, it debits the bracket from your account, and then that automatically writes a contract for you, and the piece of content goes and lives on the Speak Network and is preserved, instead of being on the YouTube, and then at some point in the future, they just delete the video, because that's what they've been doing.
Just like the Bitcoin fees are going to skyrocket one day, and if you have your Bitcoin on that network, you're fucked because you can't get it off. There's going to be one day where they really pull the switch on history, and Google's like, oh, we had an outage, but this is actually the last 20 years. And people are like, that's not the last 20 years. And they're like, yeah, it is. And people are like, I can swear that wasn't the last 20 years. And they're like, yeah, it kind of was. We're fucking Google. Like, who are you? And they're like, I guess that was the last 20 years, man. We don't want that to happen, and it's going to happen. And it can't happen if we have an immutable database that has all of history. So, yeah, everybody should, every day be putting some kind of historical document, something that they know is actually real. It's real, hasn't been tampered with, and it's valuable. Doesn't even have to be valuable, just fucking history, so we know when they're changing shit. It's getting to be out of hand. Dunning-Kruger effect used to be a joke. Now it's like... These motherfuckers are trying to make us think they're trying to Mandela effect. They're trying to make us think there's something wrong with us. So then they can get us to think the sky is green and shit, because they're like, well, who am I? My mind, I used to think that was a different color. I don't know what's going on anymore. It's very, very scary world when you don't know the truth from reality.
We should be putting just dates on, dates from history, people.
Everything we can.
Videos of towns is a big one. That's what they're going to go for next. They're going to go for the videos of the towns. I don't know if you're familiar with the World Fairs.
Replace it with AI. Oh, God. This is what the 1920s used to live like. You get a bunch of clowns.
Right. This is what you really used to look like. Look how far you've come. Look how far you've come, You can actually walk now.
They have to do the fucking bird. It shows a bunch of fucking people doing
the Flappy Bird Ethereum
1920.
Dudes.
That's it. That's going to be our history. AI, dude, that's fucking powerful, dude. You get one generation where you can blank out. AI gets to fucking be too realistic. You change shit around. You have to think that there were clowns in the 1920s that could flap.
You could do that. so that's the point. Right now is it's the last couple of years.
God. This is it.
You can go on YouTube and type in New York in 1920, and you can see what New York actually looked like, and how it was basically more civilized than it is now. Right? We need these videos as a point of reference for our future. Right? Otherwise, when you change the past. And then this is all we've got, this current world of insanity.
You almost need to be like Truth Tube or something, like some kind of historical tube or something.
We need to have a tube that...
This is that it hasn't been tampered with, because you can see on the back end if it's tampered with or edited in any way.
Right.
And just upload fucking everything we can that we know is real before the AI age takes over. And
all these talks from famous people that were questionable back in the day that have been erased from history, right? Just to give an alternative view. Upload all the videos of all the towns and cities that were filmed. I don't know if you know, but every major US city's had a fire in the late 1800s, a massive devastational fire, right? You know about this, right? You know about the World Fairs.
They're trying to destroy all the fucking everything, dude.
They destroyed everything.
Oh, another church or another fucking library went up and fucking
burn it.
This is what the books actually said, though.
And then you got the European fairs as well. Not the European fairs, sorry, the World Fairs. A lot of them were in the USA, and they're incredible marvels. And apparently the history is that they constructed these incredible buildings and fairs, and then they look incredible. They look like next level architecture. It's amazing. And then after the fair, they have to destroy them. So they destroyed them all. Same in London, same in Paris, same across the whole world. They had these world fairs in the late 1800s, and they just built these. Apparently, they built these fantastic structures and then just destroyed them. It's like, come on, guys, who the fuck, what wool are you trying to pull over my eyes here? We've got, and there's videos of these things, you know. There's videos of these world fairs. You know, they're on YouTube for a few more months, probably.
I'm laughing, but it's not a funny. It's not a good laugh because I'm thinking if I'm an elite, what I would do to you motherfuckers, and it makes me laugh because it's so sadistic and terrible what they can get away with. That it's laughable that we allowed ourselves to be in such a terrible, terrible situation. I'd make you motherfuckers think, you know, a bunch of Flappy Birds in the motherfucking 1920s, you know, fucking dancing around. But that's the 1920s, kids.
Yeah, so we need things like the Speak Network so that people can, you know, and make it as easy as possible so people can click and store that video and back it up on the Speak Network, you know, and various other things as well. But
all right, close the show there.
Oh, last thing, yeah. Well, we can close the show. We can chat a bit after the call. All right. Anything else from you, Task? Any thoughts? Let's summarize this. You know, what do you think? I know we wanted to speak to you because we know that you've been speaking about this for a long time as well.
That's what Task is. His expertise. I don't even remember what I said. Something about I could say it again, but it wouldn't be exact. It'd be the same thing, but more discombobulated, I guess.
I mean, as I said, I don't. I think we use a little different terminology, but it's always the same thing. To conclude that Bitcoin is a pathway to freedom at this point, I think is beyond absurd. It's laughable.
Stepping stone.
It just isn't the case. It's not going to happen. And I don't care where somebody got the idea. When you have, Dan said it right at the beginning of the show, when Larry Fink is saying this is a wonderful thing, that about sums it all up. And that guy is not about, I mean, this is the same guy where basically he said something to the effect, we have to force people into how they need to behave.
Yeah,
that's
he
where
said
this
that.
guy comes from.
Forced behaviors.
Yeah, forced behavior. So that's where this guy comes from. So if he's a Bitcoin proponent, suddenly, whatever, and there may have been some genuineness to Bitcoin at the beginning, maybe not, who the hell knows, but if there was any, it's long gone.
It doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter now. So I like your guys' viewpoint. Use it for what we need. Make it, get the utility out of it that we need, but do not depend on it.
Keep in mind, so you can't really believe in too many coincidences. So let's really take a macro look at this. Everyone's fucking, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people are desperate. The hardest times, really, that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So many people are in poverty. So many people are struggling, living debt to debt. It's not easy to make money. It's never been easy to make money. They never allowed it to be easy to make money. That's why they have such stupid investor laws. Crypto's easy money. Crypto's easy money because they want you in the goddamn system. They want everyone right now, so the next 2 years, enjoy it. Enjoy it. This is what it's all about. They're going to fucking have one goddamn giant pump. Everyone's going to get in because they're so goddamn desperate and they have no other way. They're going to chop you out into your fucking stable coins. You're going to end up with nothing anyway. But the glimmer, the hope of trying to get in and out. That's why most people, Bitcoin, I always laugh, Bitcoin $1 million, but 99% of people won't realize it because they'll have to be, they just always have a perfect time to sell when you're distressed. They just know they can hold out as long as they have to. Like, shake them more. Doesn't matter. They're not hurt enough. We know they're not making enough money. They're not getting paid enough. Their bills, rise the bills, make everything more expensive. These motherfuckers aren't going to have any Bitcoin by the time it's $1 million. We'll make sure of it. It's so obvious what they're doing. Like, people think they're geniuses making all this money. Understand what's happening. Make your money. Get the fuck out. Build freedom tools, right? That's that. Use it for what it is. Understand what will ride this fucking surfboard, but fucking get yourself secure, man. Don't rely on Solana. Don't rely on Ethereum. Don't rely on Bitcoin. These are not freedom tools. These are tyranny tools. They are tyranny tools. They will enslave you. They will enslave your kids. It is game theorized. You can break it down. Why? I'm not saying routing 1,000 times. Poke fun at the Sato guy. I'm saying some real fucking shit that makes sense, and it should be very concerning for you all. Make your money. Have a good time. Get the fuck out. Build freedom tools. Period.
Everybody's a genius in a bull market.
No. Bull market by design. This isn't natural money. They want you in. They're attracting everybody. Every time Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, a new celebrity talks about it. You trust the celebrities? You trust any of these fucking people? Look at all the people who are pro Bitcoin now. It's weird Jay-Z fucking weird people, right? That we don't fucking like or trust, right? Pretty soon you're going to have some fucking sketchy ass people coming out. More sketchy. I think everybody sketchy is already pro Bitcoin now. Pretty sure. But yeah.
Let's finish.
They'll be ETH maxi soon.
Oh, God. ETH
They already are.
I can't comprehend the brain of an ETH maxi.
Oh, they flap their wings on stage. That's what they do. Luckily, you can identify them from far away.
Are they purple?
I just get angry when I
vouchers?
hear ETH maxi. I don't have any other emotion. It's just like cutting anger. It's like you get cut, you feel pain. It's like cutting anger. It's like, oh, why'd you say ETH maxi?
Well,
It's not cringe. It's fucking destructive.
Let's
Disgusting.
finish the show here. Let's call that the show before we become too horrible to the Flappy Birds.
To the fluffy fucking birds. They can't.
This is the current Bitcoin price. It's what's the date today? It's the 11th of March 2024. 72,350 is the current Bitcoin price. All-time highs. We've been having this conversation for a long time, a number of years, but this is where it really starts to hit the fan. The price is going up. The normies are getting in. Everyone's saying it's it's freedom, freedom, freedom. It's very clear what people who know been in the industry for a long time know. It's not pro-freedom. It's going to cause us some issues. All it becomes to us is liquidity pool. We're going to get in and out from the fiat system using the system. We're going to build our freedom tools on the flip side and make everyone free, give everyone digital rights equal across the world, and use Bitcoin as a liquidity layer to in and out and exit if we need to. That's all it becomes, in my opinion, at this point.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
well, that'll be it. Get off this.
All right, let's stop the recording here. See you all next time. Cheers.
Ciao.
Cheers, Task. Anything to say from you, Task? Where do we follow you, by the way?
I'm going to stand up. You don't...